The first episode of the new year for Locked On Coyotes. Super excited as we get ready to talk all Arizona Coyotes for the year 2022. Be sure to stick around all year and for today on Locked On Coyotes.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Robyn, Carl Pavlik right beside me. On today, it is January 3rd, 2022, the first episode of the new year. Happy New Year, everybody. Hope your New Year's weekend went off right. Hope you're getting your New Year's resolutions off perfectly. I'm happy today, Carl, because today was the very first day. Obviously, it didn't go out until for one more day. But I started recording my first episode as host of Locked On Coyotes. So it's been a year, officially 1 year, standing in here.
Very nice. So not only Happy New Year to you, happy anniversary with Locked On Coyotes. Definitely, I remember when you made the jump over because we were doing the Desert Dogcast at the time, and it's great to kind of see that you were able to kind of stick it out and last a full year doing a daily show, which is. Having started doing it with you a couple months ago, it's very difficult to do.
You can imagine how it was doing it solo for a while, let alone someone who's and I'm pretty open about it, having some mental health issues. So like
Yeah.
and there's a reason that there was some weeks where I couldn't do a couple episodes for a while. I'm like, yeah, I got some mental health problems. I need to take a week off. But I think things are getting better. Obviously, I haven't needed to do that in quite a while. So
Yeah.
things are getting better. And again, 1 year, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's most podcasts don't last a year. Even kind of like the ones that we're at with like networks and stuff. Like people like they start and then they just kind of give up because it's either too much or they got other things going on. But like sticking out, it's great to see. And I we haven't really talked about it, but no plans to quit anytime soon. So
No plans to quit anytime soon. And let's put it this way. Obviously, I'm not gonna, put any names out there, but let's just put it in a generic sense of terms. Called look at how many Coyotes podcasts that you've probably seen, just Coyotes podcasts make through the runner around here in Arizona, and how many of those are still around.
I mean, I think I have been on two that are no longer around before you even came on to Five for Howling. So before I even met you, I was on two Coyotes podcasts. They do not go. They do not last long. In general, podcasts I think don't last long, which is one of the cool things about it because it's very experimental. It's an easy thing for anyone to kind of pick up and try. So you get like a lot of different ones, but it's like you hear most restaurants don't last past a year. Just kind of one of those things where it's tough to keep it going.
It is tough to keep going, and I'm glad that we were able to stick everything around and be one of the top daily Arizona Coyotes podcasts for you all, because I know you guys all love hearing us rant about how bad the Coyotes are and looking forward to the future.
Doing a daily show about the Coyotes, it's tough because it's bad things over and over again. Like we try and find the silver linings as much as we can, but they are few and far between. I think the best thing you could say about the Coyotes lately is they've looked okay, but they've also had most of their games postponed, so we haven't gotten to see them play.
It's crazy because you and I were also talking about we can talk about this pretty briefly. You're talking about the Coyotes like, oh, they got 5 days off before they play the Stars, and that game gets postponed too, so they get a full week again.
Yeah. And that was a game that I was really interested in watching because the Stars were also just completely on a break. Like they had been going longer than the Coyotes without having played a game, and that would have been like a really good like rust game to see. Like just two teams super rusty. I imagine it would have been like another insane game like the Sharks one, but no. In addition to the holiday breaks, we're also getting some COVID breaks right now, and it is wreaking havoc on the NHL.
And there was a reason why the NHL decided that it wasn't going to be going to the Olympics. They're using that break to fill in as many games as they can because they want to obviously not have to extend the season much longer than it is. The AHL did say they had to extend the season, extra 5 days, which doesn't seem like a lot, but
I do wonder what is going to happen with the NHL season because like it feels like it still hasn't reached its peak worseness. Like things seem like they're going to get worse, and we're going to see more canceled and postponed games. So like any kind of talk about like doing it during the Olympic break, like some of those venues plan to have like concerts and stuff, then that's going to be difficult. B, that kind of assumes that like everything is fine and we just need to make up for what went wrong, and I don't think that's going to be the case. Like it feels like there's going to be a lot more that needs to be done. uh I'm really hoping we see an actual plan from the NHL soon, because there's not been much.
yeah, the NHL kind of wants to, you know, tiptoe around it. They're focusing on I don't even know what to say they're even focusing on because just like what decisions are these like you realize that there's like you said, venues are busy venues. They got other stuff. They got
Yeah,
and of course a lot of the players are probably upset they're not going to the Olympics because that's a big deal.
yeah.
Um, it there's still a lot of decisions being made. I don't know what decisions they are, but you know.
Well, we can see from the way they've handled the Canadian games being postponed due to like arena restrictions, their primary concern seems to be revenue from the front gates, which their business it's kind of where the concern is, but I feel like that's a bad short-term mentality that's like covering up for like other issues that they have. But yeah, they seem to want to make sure that they can make as much money as they can this season, and whether or not that means the games are played, I think that's a secondary concern right now, which is very frustrating to see.
And I think, actually, now that I think of it, I think that's something that people were talking about. Like, essentially, is the message that Gary Bettman was trying to say is like, we're focused on the business side of things first,
Yeah,
and which I can half understand. Yeah, the NHL, these sports leagues are businesses. They're focusing on trying to make money, but at the same time, like you have the other business side, aka the front facing side where you want these TV ads and whatever that are where the games being played, and a lot of TV spots being postponed because of all stuff like that. You have the health issues too about of some of these players, and like, are they being addressed?
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. The NHL is definitely focused on the business side, like you said, and like I said, but I think there's something to be like. There's an importance to the NHL as a brand if they can have a season that finishes without problems, because the NHL has had shortened seasons, they've had lockout seasons. It's not something that fans like. There's always a big upheaval anytime a season is shortened. And I think right now, like they're focused on making sure that they can make money on the games and not necessarily on the long-term viability of this season. And I think if they think too short term, it's gonna bite them and it's gonna be bad for business. So I think this is the wrong call to make from a business perspective too.
Absolutely. Anyways, though, um, it's the new year though. Let's get to some happy stuff because we want to focus on stuff to look forward to for the new year. And you know what? That's exactly what we're gonna do in coming up in just a bit on Lockdown Coyotes. Before we get to any of that though, I want to remind you that because it's New Year, that does mean New Year's resolutions. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure that Built Bar is in that plan. Because Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, heck, even maybe better than a candy bar. It's easier to stick with your resolution if you have a Built Bar because it tastes so good that you want to keep eating it. And unlike other protein bars, which can be chalky or waxy or just taste like chemical spill, Built Bar is the one that can, keep you at it. You want to eat healthy, but it's just so boring. By like week 3, you say it might not be worth it. Where's the chocolate? Built bars are covered in 100% chocolate. 130 calories to 4 grams sugar, 4 grams net carbs, 17 grams protein. It is definitely the right decision to make for your New Year's resolution. So go ahead and I want you to try it out yourself. Go to built.com and use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your order. Once again, use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. So we're back here on Lockdown Coyotes to discuss the Arizona Coyotes in 2022. It's the new year. There are things to look forward to this year. Obviously, the last the team is not good, but I mean,
Yeah,
there are things to look forward to this year.
there are things that are going to be happening this year that we will be witnessing. Looking forward to them is a funny way to say it, though.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you can kind of look forward to it in some ways.
Yeah. Uh, I will say I've talked about this with some other people. I think that this year is going to be just as bad as the end of last year for the Coyotes. Things are not going to get better anytime soon on ice. Even if the Coyotes draft Shane Wright, which it's yeah, draft Lowry. That's a fun thing to be prepared for. Um, that doesn't instantly make them a contender. We saw that with the Edmonton Oilers and how they repeatedly drafted first overall and they didn't immediately get better. So, yeah, I feel like
It took
it's
them
just
into I think a year after they drafted Connor McDavid before they were actually relevant. Maybe even two
yeah,
years.
yeah. I mean, McDavid had a solid rookie season.
Well, yeah, he did, of course. I mean, you could say the same thing about a lot of rookies, who drafted first, second overall. But
Yeah,
um,
it's a team sport. It doesn't instantly make everyone better. I think they're going to be in a good position with the contracts they have to make a contender pretty quickly, and I think they're going to be able to bring in people who want to play with uh, strong talent if they get that. But that just I don't see immediate improvement during this calendar year.
I mean, and the thing is, I think that obviously Disney is calendar year is a major improvement. Yeah, you're not going to see that, but in the drafting of Shane Wright, and not just Shane Wright, but remember this, Carl. How many draft picks do the Arizona Coyotes have in the first 2 rounds of the upcoming draft?
Yep.
Just them at 8 picks, 3 first rounders and 5 second rounders. There's, still a likelihood, and I think Craig Morgan mentioned it when he was on the podcast a few months back. He said it wouldn't surprise him if the Arizona Coyotes use one of those second rounders to bump back into the first round again for another one.
Yeah. Or I could see them acquiring talent too at the around the draft time. It'll be interesting to see what they do with that because they have quite the stockpile. They could make a lot of moves that teams traditionally don't make because they don't want to give up their one first round pick, their one or two second round picks. The Coyotes just have so much from making so many moves. They could do anything, and that's exciting to watch. Um, at least the kind of plan. I think we're going to get another year where we have a completely different team uh, going into next season. Like just like how what I think 14 players were new coming into this season. I think we're going to get a lot of that for next season.
We will, and it will be, uh, it will be interesting to see. Obviously, um, in a perspective like mine, it is quite fun to see because I am used to roster turnover. I am covering the American Hockey League, which
Yeah,
sees roster turnover constantly every freaking year, no matter what. So to see it at the NHL level will be interesting, but I think it'll be a good thing for the Coyotes. Again, this is about we're talking about the growth of this team, what's coming up in the future. Yeah, are they going to be good in the calendar year 2022? Nope. 2023, maybe they might have things turned around.
yeah,
But
maybe latter 2023. So like
yeah,
the
2023-2024 season.
that yeah that's a good spot to be. But yeah, it is kind of. I do think there's going to be a lot of shakeup. And that could be a good thing and a bad thing. I think fans are going to see some of their favorite players go, or just kind of like age out. Louis Erickson, like surprisingly, still has like a lot of people who really like talking about him online. And I don't think he is going to be in the league for much longer after this. So I think we're going to see a lot of that. But especially for people like yourself who follow the Roadrunners, like we've already seen so many Roadrunners make their debut this season, like, and it's just going to keep happening. Like we still haven't gotten Matthias Michelli.
He's bound to come up too. And obviously there are some other prospects out there down in the Roadrunners who will eventually get their name called up. And we'll see when that happens, and I think it'll be pretty fun to see all that. Obviously, at this time, Carl, there is no player that stands out to me the way Connor Garland did a few years
Mm,
back. Um, like, because again, as I mentioned this before, when Connor Garland was a Tucson Roadrunner, I kind of thought to myself, and I had a friend of mine who didn't believe me when I said it. I'm like, this kid is going to be a good NHLer.
mm,
Mark my word, he's going to be good when he gets to the NHL,
yeah,
and he ended up being pretty freaking good.
this
Um,
is true. Um, yeah, that's I do think one of the things that made Garland such a good NHLer is that he never stopped evolving his game, even at the NHL level. So I hope that is a player like that in Tucson who's ready to just put in the work. I honestly hope that player is Victor Soderstrom, because I think the Coyotes are going to need a good blue line. Right now, they have a competent-ish blue line.
Filled with mostly Roadrunners.
Yeah, filled with mostly runners that needs to get better. And I think the hope was that Soderstrom could be that like long-term solution for the Coyotes, to kind of fit in there with Chikrin. Um, and it's still young, and defensemen take longer to develop, so I'm not counting him out yet. But I hope he slowly becomes that player down
Oh, and
there
I
in Tucson.
and I hope so too. And I'm not saying that I don't see any players that have that potential. I'm
Yeah,
saying what I'm saying is at this time, I just don't see that right now.
yeah.
I don't see that kind of player who completely sticks out to me. I'm like, that's an NHL, right? That's a future NHL superstar right there.
And let's be fair, Connor Garland stuck out like on all aspects of the ice. Like you
Hmm.
watch the game and you notice Connor Garland because he is doing things that make you notice him.
Which is funny because he was at a different draft level than the first round aligned trio
Yeah.
of Strom, Merkley, and Krause. And Connor Garland was on that team, and Connor Garland still stuck out.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the better Coyote success stories. Although honestly, with the way they've been calling up players, I imagine we're gonna get another Tucson Roadrunner success story by the end of the year.
Heck, maybe it is Matthias Michelli.
Maybe. It could be. I'm really was really excited to get him to see him play, and then nope, COVID protocol.
Oh man, COVID protocol really effing things up. Because of COVID, the taxi squad is back. We're gonna have and you know what? Let's even talk about the taxi squad in just a sec. But first, let's get a quick word from our sponsors. And we're back on Lockdown Coyotes. We said we're gonna talk about taxi squad now, and let's do that. The Arizona Coyotes have let's just put it this way. If there is a team in the American Hockey League that is feeling the full force of the re-implementation of the taxi squad because of COVID, it is the Tucson Roadrunners.
Yes, they were feeling it already just because of how many injuries the Coyotes have sustained, and it is just getting worse with the implementation of the taxi squad.
I'm trying to look at all the players who just got called up just in overall. I'm like, oh my god. Let's see. Jan Yannick got called up to the taxi squad. And Vladislav Koyachuk got called up.
Kleachuk, yep, and what was it? Just before New Year's, David Tendek called from the Rapid City Rush to the club's taxi squad.
And let's talk about that one for a sec because they called up David Tendek from Rapid City, which is a telltale sign that the Arizona Coyotes are committed to making sure that you do not mess with the development of Ivan Prosvetov.
Yeah, which I think is definitely a good thing. It's something that I think a lot of people questioned how committed are the Coyotes to making sure that he develops properly. Um, and this year, the answer has been pretty damn committed because, what he was up for a couple games, but otherwise, they've done a good job at making sure that, Prosvetov stays in the AHL, gets a chance to get all the starts that he needs, and is the time to develop as needed for him. There's not been too much of a need to bring him up to the NHL level since acquiring, Wedgwood from the waivers, but that's why they did that.
Yeah, it was definitely the smart move altogether. I think the um it just shows that the Coyotes are making better decisions. Like remember, like last year, they made some questionable decisions last year on call ups and ways. They kind of force things in there. You know,
Yeah. Well,
personnel issues, but
it's definitely uh, kind of an opposite mindset from last year, where last year they had up Prosvetov and they didn't play him.
and they
Now
played
to
Aiden Hill freaking back to back to back to back to back. Like, oh my god, what are you doing?
11 straight starts, I believe, is what
Yeah,
we've discussed. But yeah, no, like this time they're like, okay, we're not going to do that again. We're just going to keep Rasputin in Tucson, where he can get ice time. I would have been fine if Hill started 5 straight games and then Prosvetov got a start and actually saw some ice, or maybe was thrown in there for relief more than he did. But no, it's just he didn't get any kind of ice time. And I think people say it all over and over again, and we'll say it again. Like, young players need to play.
young players need to play, and that's why we have the American Hockey League. That's why it's there for development, and that's why the American Hockey League started moving, or that's why teams started moving their American Hockey League teams to much closer to them, so like they can keep a close eye on their development and can call them up on a moment's notice
Yeah. And
because we've seen a lot of call ups because there's so more.
yeah, especially this season with COVID issues, we have seen a lot more call ups, and it's very fortunate that it's a trip down the 10 as opposed to a flight back from Springfield, Massachusetts.
Let's look at some of the call ups that did happen this year. You got Matthias Machelli. You have Yanis Mosier. You have Dyson Mayo, Camden Neen, and we talked about Yannick getting called up. He had a couple games. Hudson Fashing went up for a couple games.
Uh,
Um,
Crotty, didn't he?
I think did Cam? I'm trying to think. I'm not trying to think if he did or not. Boko Imama, I think, came up for a game.
I don't know if he played. I think he was on the taxi squad.
Oh, that's right. Carcone came up for a couple games, I think.
Yeah. We,
Um,
the Coyotes have definitely made plenty of moves, like getting rid of their taxi squad when it's not needed. They are again treating that very smart, a lot better
mhm.
than I think it was treated last season,
And
which
just
makes sense.
I'll give you some perspective of how different it was last year. Hudson Fashing spent the entire the entire year on the Arizona Coyotes taxi squad. I'm looking at it right now. He had like was it 7? Yeah, 7 games total, right?
Yeah,
And he had and registered only one assist in the AHL after he finally got sent back. Or I think even before that, yeah, before he got sent back down for like a game or two.
yeah,
Um, I think that was like after, like during the playoffs or whatever. I'm trying to think what when that was, but or the quote playoffs for the Pacific Division.
sure.
This year he's already played 20 games,
Yeah,
13 with the Tucson Roadrunners, and is 13 points. Like, there's a difference. Like, and that's what we were talking about. That's the reason why the American Hockey League is there.
yeah. It's. I think. Well, it makes sense that the second year we have a taxi squad, it's coming later. Like there's just a different mindset around it, and I like the Coyotes' mindset. I like the moves that they're making with it. I haven't seen a taxi squad situation where I'm like, huh, that's making me question what they're doing. Don't worry, there's plenty of time. I'm sure that eventually the Coyotes will do something like that's may not be right because nobody's perfect. And we can't always agree with every single move. But for right now, I'm liking what I'm seeing.
I do too, and I want to see. I just want to continue to see how they implement it. Obviously, over the next couple of weeks. So we haven't even seen the Roadrunners play since the implementation of the Taxi Squad, because like they had have games postponed as well,
Yeah,
because they had I think their trip to Abbotsford was postponed. Their games against San Diego were postponed. So they've had a couple weeks off, Carl. They've had like I think a full like I think it's been like what 14, 17 days or whatever since they've played a freaking game. Like
yeah, it's it's crazy. It'll be interesting to see if we can even get games this week, or if either the Coyotes or Roadrunners will drop another one to COVID postponement.
it would suck because the AHL again is that's where I have all my fun. I
Yeah.
love covering the AHL, and it's really it's because it's cool seeing those the future Coyotes, the future of the NHL, really. Because there's a lot of good players that pass through, especially in this Pacific Division, because obviously a lot of teams in the Pacific Division are rebuilding. So,
Yeah, just the timing works out. You're getting to see a lot of good talent.
man, I love to think it. Anyways, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share before we wrap things up here on this episode?
I just kind of want to wish everybody a happy new year. It's a weird time in the NHL right now, and COVID is making everything a lot more uncertain. But hope that we can provide you with plenty of good stuff throughout this upcoming year.
Absolutely. I'm hoping so as well. So but yeah, well, let's go ahead and end this episode. That will wrap things up of this episode of Lockdown Guys. Hope you guys like what you heard. If you did, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you've yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcast, including on YouTube. Don't forget to interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, on facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes, on Twitter at LO_Coyotes. I am personally at Robyn _Leano. That's Robyn with a Y_Leano. Carl Pavlik is at Carl Pavlik FFH. You can interact with us, ask us a question you might have. We can interact right back or on a future episode of the Lockdown Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you guys are staying healthy. Once again, Happy New Year, and don't forget to howl on.